Oh, hi there, shipmates. Johnny Ray back again with another segment in my series on Marlinespike seamanship. Today we're going to be discussing Fids. Now, some of you have probably never even heard of a Fid. Maybe asking me, what the heck is a Fid? A Fid is basically a tapered wedge that's cylindrical that is used to wedge open rope in splicing, basically to make an opening that you can pass the line through, or a strand of the line. I'll get into this in more detail in my next video, which is the basics of splicing. I'll introduce you to my Fid collection here. Here we have, this actually is not a Fid. This is a Marlinespike. It's kind of an unusual one. I've never seen one quite like it's quite thick through. Generally, the difference between a Marlinespike and a Fid is a lot of people just quickly tell you, well, a Marlinespike's metal and a Fid's wood. For the most part, that is true. Most Marlinespikes have a knob on the end, so where they're large, like a nail head almost. They generally have a hole in them, and they're generally a more slender taper than a Fid. Now this one's got a very unusual taper. I think this may have even been a homemade Fid or a Marlinespike, but it's quite unusual. But I put this here to show you the difference. It's the only Marlinespike I own. I know it's quite sad. Here is a Royal Navy pattern Fid. This one's 14.5 inches long. I believe it's made out of white oak or a similar wood. This one dates back at least to World War II, if not before. It could even be late 1800s. It's been turned on a lathe. This Fid is pretty close, probably my favorite Fid of the cylindrical type. This one I believe is made of white ash. It's 14 inches long, and it's kind of unusual because it has this groove worn in it all the way around, where it basically was kept in a hole in the end of a sailmaker's bench, which is kind of neat. This Fid is a little bit smaller. It's made of lignum vitae, which is very, very dense hardwood. This weighs over twice as much as my other two Fids. About a little bit more than the two of them put together. And again, it's probably at least 80 years old, and could be a bit older. But again, it's turned on the lathe, so I would say it's probably post 1860s. This Fid here is the oldest Fid in my collection. This one I believe is white oak. It's hand carved. It's not turned on a lathe. It's actually fairly round. Actually, they did a phenomenal job hand carving it. But this one, I would say probably dates somewhere between the mid 1700s and the early 1800s. It's quite a nice piece. This is called a Swedish Fid. It's got a hollow in it so that when you force it through your line, the strand just goes through. You don't have to take your Fid out till after you've passed your tuck through. Very, very useful. I've literally performed many thousands of splices with this Fid. Back when I was a lobster fisherman, during the pre-season, I would splice an average of about 300 splices a day. That's a 16 to 18 hour day. But this is my favorite Fid for working. It's just a fantastic tool. This is the smaller version of the same Fid. I bought both of them on the same day. This one looks like brand new. The other one is a little beat up simply because I've never used this one. If you see, the small one is advertised to work from, I think, a 1/4 inch up to probably 3/4 or 1 inch line even. This one is from 3/8 up to probably 3 inch line. And since I don't really use anything smaller than 3/8, a lot of guys in Alma like to use the smaller Fids. I like the big one. I find it's easier to handle, and it works quite well. These two Fids are what are called tubular Fids. These are for splicing braided line. I'll get more into this in another video. These are called pushers. These are to push a a tubular fid through braided line when you're splicing, put an eye splice in braided line. There you have my fid collection, and a little bit of the background behind them. Stay tuned for my next segment, which will be an introductory to splicing. I wish you all calm seas, a pleasant voyage, and a mermaid in every port.